Boom! Good morning, buenos dias. How is everyone feeling? It is a beautiful, beautiful Friday. What a great week we've had. Let me get some stuff pulled up here. Let's take a look what we've got going on today. What is going on? There's a lot of things that have been going on. There's not a lot on the docket for today, so we'll talk about that. We'll see what we can come up with for today as far as the session goes, opportunities we may have to take some trades today. And let's talk about what you guys are watching, because I'm always interested to see what you guys are watching. Before we go too far, let's go check this out. Hold on. Let me go back. The brand new Edgeful is finally out. We've been talking about this for a little while. And let me just show you guys the what's in play. Look at this, it's so different. Everything right here, updating in real time. That's on ES. Let's go to QQQ. That's my favorite one to watch for this. We've got a gap forming. We've got all this stuff here. Boom, right there. I'm excited to use this today here on the stream. Good morning, everyone. Let's hit these comments. How's everyone feeling this morning? What are we watching? Which gap do we fill? KB, which gap do we fill? How about both? Can we come back and fill the overnight session gap? Can we fill maybe this gap right down here and then go fill this gap up here? That would be my ideal scenario if we can do this today. Just morning dip and then we just go all day. That would be beautiful. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that would be beautiful. Jayhawk, good morning, sir. Good morning to you. Trofer, buen dia, ¿cómo estamos? Chad, what's up, Chad? Chad's a G. Chad's an OG. Right. Let me, let's just go ahead and make the screen a little bit bigger here. And let's talk about what we've got coming. Just under 7 minutes, we'll call it just over 6 minutes or so until open. Here's our daily picture. We do have this gap on the daily to the upside. We have made a nice move though since this dip from Sunday to Monday. Very interesting point here, KB. End of the month, rebalancing, window dressing, very possible. Yeah, you could have some possible window dressing. You have, last day of the month, last day of January. I've had a fantastic January. Honestly, I don't have any massive plans to risk that. So, we'll keep it tight. I don't see a whole lot of things moving the market today. As far as if we look at this economic calendar, let me throw it up here real fast. We did have PCE this morning, and you guys know, like when data comes out, especially if you watch futures, you see things move and react to the data that comes out. PCE, we didn't move. Like, I don't even think we got a 10-point candle either direction on NQ, which is insane. We usually get 20 to 25 points here and there, even without news. So like no reaction to this PCE whatsoever. Fed Bowman was making some comments, the first Fed speaker that we've had since Jerome Powell on Wednesday afternoon. So we saw a little bit of that, honestly, a little bit more volatility from that, but really nothing. He didn't really say anything that was too earth-shattering or different than what Powell was saying, but we will continue to monitor that throughout the day. Obviously, we got to be attentive to the news. Trump with the tariff talk going on right now. between China and Mexico. I'm sorry, Canada and Mexico, 25% tariffs. There was also a separate conversation about China tariffs being possible as well. But the Mexico-Canada ones, he put basically a deadline day of tomorrow for that to happen, for Saturday. So that will be on the back of my mind all day, for sure. We do have the Chicago PMI right here at 9:45, so 15 minutes into the market. So as we're getting that 15-minute orb, I prefer even waiting for that 30-minute orb, but we may have some pre-market data that moves around a little bit, so we'll try to avoid getting chopped up early. But I would love to see if we can come down, back test maybe this area here. I mean, even this is previous day high right here from that opening candle, right? Our previous day close is going to be down in this area right here. But if we get some kind of back test into this area, I would be interested in being a buyer. And I want to see if we can fill, I mean, that gap I was showing you guys earlier. I mean, there was no trades still from this basically after hour session on Friday, 528.87. No trades have taken place from there to where we were this morning. So we should be able to, if we do get some type of dip buy, maybe we move through that area quickly. We'll see what happens. David Green, the legend himself. Appreciate you stopping by. Mr. Green, great trader, great mind, a lot of experience. If you guys don't know David Green, go check out his X page. They do a lot of great stuff. I've been through a couple of his masterminds. Beautiful stuff. Appreciate you joining this morning. Hermano, ¿cómo andas? Al mil, mi hermano, my brother. I am doing fantastic. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone's doing well this morning as we get ready for the market. Let me get this back over here so I can have some light on my face. How live is my live stream? There is a slight delay. So I'm using Restream, which sends us out to X and to YouTube. Pretty much anytime you go live on YouTube or X, there is a slight delay. I'm not sure how far that delay is. I want to say it's similar to the Spaces delay, 6 to 10 seconds probably. So yeah, I don't recommend ever following anyone's trades. I recommend using the Confluence, have your own system, have your own analysis, and use traders like myself and others for Confluence for your positions. That is 100% my recommendation and my advice. Never follow somebody's trades blindly, especially if you're listening to Spaces, if you're watching streams, that there is a delay. So especially with futures, I could call out a trade, an entry that I'm taking, especially on a big reaction candle, that by the time you hear it, it's already 20, 25 points in my favor. So use it as Confluence, please. Do not try to copy or follow my trades. Trade your own plan, trade your own strategy. Use this for Confluence and analysis. And beyond that, nothing I say on here is financial advice. So please do not take anything I say here as a recommendation to buy or sell any instrument or security out there. This is purely for educational and entertainment purposes only. And now that that's out of the way, what are you guys watching? Let me know, chat. What do we got? What do we got on the docket for today? I wonder if my friend Brian will be in here watching the video again. I know we had some people watching Apple, which we can go over that real fast. We do have just a minute till the open. We did have Apple earnings yesterday. Apple is up pretty nicely. It turned around during the conference call. It's up about 4% in the pre-market. Most other things are all green in the pre-market. There's nothing that's really just jumping out crazily to me, to be 100% honest here. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. How's that? Do we look a little bit better if we do that right there? I'm going to turn off extended hours because we won't need that here in a few seconds. And we'll move this over. There's my NFP level right there. This could be a choppy spot at first in the morning. We'll see. I am flat, by the way. I am flat. Brett, I see this comment here. I don't always follow, just like see what you're seeing and your reason for it. Yes, Brett, that is the way to do it. Brett Dawson is all over it. That is the perfect mindset. Perfect mindset. That's the way I use all of these as well. Avocados from Alan. Avocados. Love to see that. All right, let's just throw it over here. I know I've got a lot on my chart. This down here has been this like zone where this is my biggest key level that we have right now is this 560. Biggest key level we have. Our pivot point's actually way down here. We're right on R1. If we use extensions from yesterday, so from this high to this low, which was yesterday's range, this 838 is interesting to me. And then up here, this is that gap fill area I was talking about. I've marked that, 896. You've got R2 way up here. So if we do get over these Globex highs, I just think we have a strong chance of moving up today, guys. I don't like to have bias, but we'll look at some of the reports that may help confirm that here in a second. We are getting a nice push right here at the open. We'll look at some of the reports that may confirm some of this here in just a moment as we get the market open. There was also a headline. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is going to be going to the White House today to talk about export controls and some stuff with Trump. NVIDIA did pop decently this morning on that. Amazon, nice opening candle I'm looking at over here. Broadcom, nice opening candle as well. CrowdStrike, nice opening candle. So, ooh, Tesla, really big opening candle. Okay. We have a lot of things popping right here at the open. Futures popping. Let's see if we take out this high and continue higher. Boom, look at that. Big old move up here. Wow, 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 wow. We are absolutely flying. Watch this 38 area where I have this fib extension. See if that becomes an issue. But boy, we are screaming to the upside here, as I thought we might do. I have no action in this. Are any of you guys in this long right now on anything? Goodness gracious, what a nice, beautiful, beautiful open. Boy, did we hit. You guys saw me already had this on my chart, right? Based on yesterday's session, this is the 1.272. Look at that. Within one tick on NQ that is highly volatile and a almost 22,000 point instrument. And within one tick, 1/4 of a point there. If you guys don't use this extension, I don't know what to tell you. I see reactions to it all the time. What a move off the open. Look at that. How big is this candle even off the open here? Boom. Boom. Oh, no, I missed. It's always tough when the candle's the same candle. Wow, about a 73 point candle there. Let's see if we hold in on these 800s. The 771 that I have marked here on NQ, this is where we opened on Sunday night with the gap down. So anything from here above is truly that gap that we're looking to fill. I really want to see if we can get up here to like 850. I want to get long. I can't buy right at 800 personally. Somebody can. NVIDIA reversing down just a bit. Let's see if that's hopefully not a big liquidity grab up there. But yeah, looking around the market. Once again, guys, let me know what you all are watching and we'll start to get going. I want to let this first few minutes kind of get going here. We're not even 5 minutes in yet. What a move. And we'll take a look. There's a few reports for Fridays in general that I want to look at. A couple things we can use to our advantage for sure. And I'm looking at a lot of information at once, trying to get it out to you guys. Is the music a little bit loud? Let's turn that down just a smidge, even though I like it. I need this music playing all day long in my ear, just in the background. Squawker is awfully quiet this morning. That's interesting. Awfully quiet on the Squawker this morning. Tesla is absolutely screaming the upside. 407 right now on Tesla, 1.65% up. Amazon's still holding in nicely. Google is up. It's back to 203, up 1%. Let's see if anything's lagging. NVIDIA is slightly red. Not as red as it was, but still slightly red, coming down a little bit. But yeah, so one of the main things that I watch personally is I watch the top 10. For those that don't know, I watch the top 10 weighted stocks in QQQ. So every day I'm watching these right here. These are the ones I watch the most because those are the ones that can most move QQQ, right? How close did we get over here? Hold on. I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this right there. Right there. Yeah, so we almost got there. Turn that off. So if I put a line right here where trading stopped in after hours, let's see. So we filled the kind of the gap itself. Wow, what a reversal here. Hold on. Big reversal here. I'm thinking about maybe buying it this time, but that looks like could be a little scary liquidity grab. We do have that PMI coming out in a few minutes. Did ES fill that gap? What did ES come up to? Good eye. Basically, yeah, that's pretty close there. ES definitely weaker than tech this morning. I've noticed Exxon was coming down pretty hard. They had earnings, but then I think the call is going on right now. Well, I didn't buy this yet. I should have. Like I said, the 771 KB bought it. Yeah, I didn't buy it just yet. I'm being a little bit patient here this morning. Yeah, I mean, you would think we maybe at least touch the previous day high here, but hey, who knows? We held that December NFP level that I watched pretty closely. We've already bounced 25 points, 35 points almost. Beautiful dip by KB. Beautiful. Yeah, we'll see. Chicago PMI. I think it'll be worth paying attention to. I'm not sure we get a big reaction out of it, but who knows? You never know, especially if something's way out of line. Honestly, it's not one of the ones that I watch and I think, okay, this is a big market mover, but it can happen, right? We even saw like pending home sales yesterday. We started coming unglued a little bit on that because the numbers were so different. Pete the Cat, good morning, my friend. Great to see you. Nima, good to see you this morning. KB cap it small. Hey, there you go. I actually love this. Hard limit 3 micros, like max 3 micros in that first 30 minutes. That makes sense. The volatility. I mean, how much size do you need when you've had 2 candles since we've opened, right? Or not even 2 full candles almost, but you've had 73 points up and down, and you've bounced off the same level twice. How far did you bounce the second half? 56. So you've gone up 72, you've come back 72, and you've gone back up 56. How much size do you need for that, right? I want to get involved here, but it's just so early. I need a little bit better dip by it. That was probably a good shot. I just did not take it. We came right off the R1, right basically off of yesterday's high there. So this is I'm sorry, this is the gap fill start. Let's put that on there. I still think we go up, but this is very volatile. Nvidia turning back around now. Costco just pushed up to pre-market highs over the opening high. AMD came down really hard, but Nvidia is pushing. Apple, there's some profit taking going on in Apple. Tesla's absolutely flying at 2.5%. I think this is going to go higher. What do we have up here? 896. It's all I have up there. Very nice push. If we can break this, boy, I think we can just go. Gotta get over this right here, this area. I really think this could go today. But you don't need much size, and you don't want to be early. Nvidia about to break pre-market high. Nvidia is green. Everything looks good to me right now. The problem is, like, a lot of these things are just ripping like crazy. So what are we in for? What are we in for? What are we doing? I'm not chasing any longs up here. I really think we can get to like an 850 area at least, which is going to be wherever this is right here. Ignore this where it says change of structure. This is gap fill. Gap fill. Let me go down to the 5-minute chart. Let's see what we've got. Look at that NFP high holding. We have no NFPs above us. There's all-time high way up there. Two minutes until that PMI data. But a lot of volatility, a lot of upper wicks. A few of those names were overextended just off the open. Tesla being one of those. Apple is pulling back here. It's up 2% still, but it's pulling back just a little bit, some profit taking. Meta just breaking out now. 698, up 1.6%. Amazon looks like it's still pushing. I think we're going to get this push up there. I'm not in it. If you're like KB and you got that, beautiful job. But yeah, I think 850 and 900 is coming today. It's just a matter of how do we get there. I mean, I just look at this. So here's basically previous day high. We were back testing that. We got bought up off of that overnight, consolidated up here all night long, moved up, since the open, moved up since Apple earnings. Just seems like we may get that continuation up. Let's go look at the daily. So, oh, the PMI data is late. That's weird. Chicago PMI data is late, they just said. That's wild. AMD is getting hit pretty hard here. Apple coming down. Meta's, I don't know. $39.5 versus 40 expected. Forecast 37.2. Previous 36.9. So a little bit move up on that Chicago PMI. SPY did fill that gap. So SPY has filled the gap because this is your daily close right here. Just noting SPY has filled the gap on the daily. Ooh. Ton of NVIDIA calls came in. Well, we got the first 15 minutes. There's a 15-minute orb. Let's take a look at what we've got. So gap, based on the size, I don't think we're going to fill this gap. We're still moving up here. Hold on. I think we're going to 850. And then maybe you dip by 800. I mean, I don't know. I think this thing's just going to go higher today. That's just my... Look, the EMA's caught up. We're right off the EMA, right off the EMA. Microsoft pushing up. See if it can get back through 420. Yeah, I think we're going here. One second. We'll take a look at... I want to see this... I want to see this play out a little bit, and we'll go back to that analysis. I've done some of it in pre-market already to get my idea, and then I'll show you guys some of it using Edgeful. Hey, who in here uses Edgeful, and have you tried out, or are you using the new version of Edgeful? Have you checked it out? What are your thoughts? I think it's fantastic so far. Honestly, I've been so busy, I haven't got to play with it a whole lot, but as far as just like my what's in play and my daily stuff, it has been fantastic. Come on in, Q. Break through that 38 resistance and fill that gap. Pete, you've tried it out? It's fantastic. I mean, this is what's in play. I mean, look how much information you got at one spot. Previous day's range, touch previous day high, yes. We would stop right there again. See if we can hold like 800. All right, I'm processing a lot of information. We'll get into some of these stats and trades here. KB's the only one I know that got a decent trade here, and you caught most of it. You said you took it off back in this area or whatever around this time. I really haven't missed out on a whole lot either. But beautiful trade, beautiful snipe down there. Everything about this structure looks super bullish to me on Qs. There it goes. There she blows. I can't get involved up here. Like this was the dip buy. I didn't take it with that opening volatility. I'm okay with that. It's risk management, right? But you're fully in this gap here. Let me do. This is the gap on futures right here. Here, we'll just go to where no trades have taken place right there. So from here to right there. Yeah, that gap fill is right at 900 as far as where no trades took place on Sunday. The actual close was a little bit higher. QQQ is about to touch the gap fill as far as the session gap or the overnight gap that it left. It's about to touch it right here. The actual close is what, 529.71, 66, somewhere in that range. So that's where I think we're headed to close, is that daily gap on Qs. And if SPY can accept over and SPX accept over this 6100, that will definitely help us. Meta's absolutely flying. Tesla's been absolutely flying. Google, Netflix, everything's flying. There we go. All right, so here we're getting really close to that gap fill. There might be a chance to take a short against it just for the initial reaction. We'll see what happens. But there's essentially the gap fill. Options Grover, you're having trouble finding finding the YouTube? No Options Grower, I did not block you on anything. That's weird that you couldn't find KB. KB, you shorted that? Beautiful. I moved right here. We'll get this orb here set shortly. I moved this because we basically filled that session gap that I was talking about, or the overnight gap. I moved this up here to where the actual like close gap is, so where this is. Is it Omi? Either way, nice short scalp. We got extended, so whenever you see these EMAs, this is just a tip that I see. When you see a big candle like this and you see where this extended from EMAs, usually you can, even reverse scale in sometimes up here from 50 to 60 to 70, and you're going to get a move back down to at least this high, if not to like one of these previous candles or this eventually. Oh me, oh me, oh me, oh my. New highs. That worked out perfectly. We're almost there. We've almost filled this. I would feel better up here for the short. We do have our 30-minute orb set. We broke the upside of that. I'm watching this. QQQ stopped 8 cents short of filling the full gap here from Friday's close. We're right there, basically watching the thesis play out beautifully here. Boom, and there it is. All right, so gap is filled. Futures in Q is still a few points away, but that is basically full target for me. Guys, I'm looking at shorts right into this, at least for a scalp. You're stepping in front of a train, but I think you can get some type of Well, I want to take a short. Where's this level? What's this? 2150. Let's watch that 2150. Do we take a short starter right here? Who wants to? Who wants to? All right, starter short. I'll do it. I'll do it. Starter short right here. First target here. Second target, probably that 50 right there. Starter, I'll add a little bit more up here, and the more we get extended, the more I'll add into this. What is this orb high? 72? So that's what we're looking for, 72. Whoa, KB, KB trying to get real aggressive here. Downside gap. See if we get one more little push here. Haven't added yet. Which level, Braden? This one right here. This is the gap fill. So if you go back to where we were at Friday and then where we gap down, this is it. This is the spot. All right, touche. Touche. We just need a Trump tweet. Touche. Penny, good morning to you. Starter short QQQ just closed Tesla. Beautiful move on Tesla, up 4%. Wow. I just wonder if it's too early. We need to get, let's see if we can get, I'm just looking for a pullback like to here, even 880. I'll trim at 880 and I'll trim here. NVIDIA is absolutely screaming. We are very extended from this. So I'm just looking for like a wick down, kind of like what we saw earlier in some of these candles. I'm just looking for this to come back down to earth a little bit. All right, see if we can come back down to orb high here, a little extended. Come on. Microsoft still pushing. Goolsby is talking right now. Still waiting on this open candle. Oh, here we go, guys. I'm trimming at 80. There it is, 20-point gain. 20-point gain, I just trimmed half. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Boom, there he is.
What's up?
What is up, Andre? We're on a short right now, by the way, off that gap fill.
Very nice.
I just trimmed 20 points right here, trying to hit this warp high and get away from this. You've been trading. What have you been working on? There it is, warp high. The second trim right there. We're down to runners.
Can you hear me okay? I'm using a mic this time.
You sound fantastic, actually. Crispy.
Even better, because this thing is a pain to set up. I have been trading, actually, today. I took the longs this morning because I always look at the gap stats, and I know you and I were actually talking this morning, but looking at the gap stats, the gaps up on Fridays for NQ are not great. Like, they don't typically fill. So to me, that gives me that long bias. Now, obviously, finding the entry is something that, I mean, I can see right now you have VWAP, you have your EMAs, you have the orb on there. But for me, I'm looking at where can I get long for a move higher away, specifically from that gap fill.
Yeah, so when I was looking at hey, fantastic update, by the way. Fantastic. This thing is awesome.
I'm happy about that.
The first thing, I pulled this up, and the first thing that sticks out to me is how big this gap is. You go into the report, and you can see that the stats are not going to be good. Sub-report, we're going by size.
Yep.
Not good there.
Yeah.
Isn't it also by day, I think? I think I've seen this one before. Yeah, look at this.
That's the big one that I actually was. So the way that I kind of think about the gap size, the gap fill is number one priority is to look at the gap size, without question. If today, let's just say Friday, there's a gap down and the stats are really good, but there is a massive gap down, the odds there are a lot lower because obviously the gap size is most important. So I always weight that kind of priority number one, and then priority number two is the weekday, which is exactly what you were just pulling up right now.
Yeah, so I've just noticed from looking through the different days. I mean, look, Thursday, higher chance, 50-50. I mean, I'm looking at gap ups here. Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, I mean, a lot stronger. Friday's an outlier. So that's why that one's always in the back of my head for Fridays.
Exactly.
Me and you were DMing a little bit earlier, just talking about trading, and I was like, hey, this right here, a couple things. What else were you looking at? You can throw your screen up too if you want to look. I have my stop at break even right here, so if this thing goes any higher, I'll get stopped out on those runners. That's fine. Boom, there it is right there. I just got hit. I heard it go off. All right, well, we're out of the trade. We caught a nice, how many points was that? About 30 points. Took a little 30-point scalp on a counter trend trade.
Very nice. Let me share quickly. Just let me know if you can see that okay. So you guys can see this? Yeah, this move is kind of nuts, especially so the way that I have this is on my personal trading view, but the way that I have my watch list set up here is based on I'm on the 30-minute now, but it's based on the weight of the NASDAQ. So it's not exact, like Tesla's obviously not the first, but so what I typically like to do is I'll kind of go and do something like this, where I'll just hit the space bar and shuffle through, and you can see, okay, QQQ obviously is up, Tesla is up. Now, this kind of stands out to me to say Apple's counter to what everything else is doing so far. NVIDIA is up, Microsoft is up, and Broadcom is up, and I'm always looking from the open. So for me, this is something that I'll do is I'll just go through and I'll literally just shuffle, and now, okay, I see Meta, Amazon both pulling back, Google, and then I'll literally just do this, and obviously I ignore the crypto here. But that's like one thing. I don't know if anyone else does that. I know that you and I had spoken about that before, but this is something that like I kind of do a lot actually, just to kind of get a picture of what's going on. And yeah, I know that there's a ticker that it's on right here.
We just hit that R2 I was showing everyone earlier, by the way, and got a big slap down, 30 points already.
Or is that on the pivot points?
Yeah, R2 pivot point. It's at 921.50, and we just got up there. And to me, this is like, okay, people that have been long, especially if they're long overnight, they're long at the open. That's this is two massive target areas. Gap fill plus that R2. You're going to have some sellers waiting there, but you're also going to see buyers taking profit.
What are you looking at here? What ticker?
NQ.
Okay. So when you look at NQ, do you use the gap fill by session indicator, or do you use the daily one and look at the regular pivot
this
points?
One, because it's a gap left from another day, I just go draw it manually. So like because this was from Friday to Sunday, that gap. So it's different than like the session by session, day by day gap.
Yeah. Okay. Because you just mentioned the pivot points, and one thing that we actually don't currently have on Edgeful is which we're actually going to release. I was doing this last night, but we don't show the actual levels for today. So if you don't use TradingView and you don't use the pivot points by session indicator, then you don't really know what they are. You don't know what each of these pivots are because this is filtering for the New York session. Now, if you use the daily session, you use the typical regular pivot points across any broker. But one thing that we're going to add, and let me just pull this up very quick so I can show you. Just move this over here, and then I'm going to just give me 1 sec.
I do go check this out every once in a while, especially if we open up like way up or way down, just so I can set decent targets for any type of counter trend. If you open up above R1, which we did today, like the chances of you coming back down to like S1 are super low.
Yeah. No, and very, very low actually. But what I wanted to show you quick, sorry, it's taking a minute, is well, I'll just do this quick. But we're also going to add this all reports, just so you know. So if you do want to filter through everything, you can. And we're also adding a search bar right over here. So when you click on the report, you can just type in pivots, which will hopefully make your life a little bit easier. And then what we're going to be doing here is adding this. So you know all the levels for the pivots based on the session.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you can just see it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So like I know some people like in the Discord that I'm in, every day they go into like the Ninja Trader and they go to like the little data window box of it and take a screenshot of that and they drop it in one of their channels so people can reference it. But yeah, if I can go to Edgeful, if I can put this on my what's in play and just like while I'm looking at what's in play, I know, hey, 920, 770, whatever. Those are all pivot points to watch for today. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a great spot to think about putting that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to show you guys what this one thing that will probably release today, but I know you look at it all the time. I used to look at it a lot more than I do now, but yeah, it is a pretty, hopefully that'll help you.
I just, from trading futures for so long, I see so many reactions no matter what at those levels.
Yeah.
Like somebody big is paying attention to those levels, so I feel like I need to be paying attention to them.
You know, it was actually one of the first, like the regular pivot points. So this is one of the first indicators that I found when I first started trading. This was like something where I was like, okay, these are levels of resistance, these are levels of support. I can take profits here, I can take rejections off these levels. And it was like, and I'll just try to find some decent examples here. But like, yeah, I mean, look at this even yesterday. This is kind of like ridiculous.
That's insane. I saw it where we hit the
right
highest
over here.
SPY. Because it was the same, like I think ES was pretty similar too.
Yeah, this is SPY right now. Kind of crazy sometimes the results that you see from some of these things.
Andre, serious question here. Do you think that companies or the government, Trump, whatever, do you think they time news and tweets to key levels? Have you ever noticed that?
You know,
I have a conspiracy that certain news comes out right when we get to key levels on the chart, whether it's like a whole number you see in the video at 120 and all of a sudden you hear like a good news report about it, or it gets up too high and you're like, all of a sudden they release bad news, to send it back down. Like, I don't know. It's something that I have a conspiracy theory for.
You actually mentioned the news to me more than I look at it. Like, I really don't look at the news that much. And I always look at the economic data. I always look at when big economic data is going to come out. But like, I never look at Trump's Twitter, or I never look at Twitter for any news, which I should do. But typically what I've found in my experience is that it just becomes more of a distraction for me specifically to like go and filter through all the news, or like kind of see what the vibe is on Twitter, whether it's like bullish or bearish or whatever else. But I don't know. I would love to kind of like, now that you've kind of pointed it out, I would love to kind of look into it and to say, like, what'd you see today? NVIDIA 120, and then what happened?
No, it wasn't today. It was yesterday. So right when Trump tweeted about the tariffs was when SPY hit that pivot point. I mean, literally, you saw it on the chart, right where that is. That is Trump tweet about tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Right there at the high of day.
Right here. That was the okay.
So we rejected there, and it was literally like the next 5-minute candle. Then that tweet came out, and then you saw the market rug like a 1.5% back to break even. That was actually where we bounced was previous day close. I had the gap fill indicator on, and I saw it was that's where we came back to.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this question here. Is there a report on continuation move when price breaks above prior day high? Okay, so the one that you want to be looking at.
Great question.
The previous day's range report.
It's one of my favorites.
And for this report specifically, it's not going to be the standard variant. It's going to be the outside close variant. So what this report looks at is for every time price breaks yesterday's high, how often does it close above the high, or how often does it close below the high? And then for every time it breaks previous day's low, how often does it close below the low and close above the low? So you can see that typically once we break either the high or the low, it will actually close in that direction. Now that doesn't mean that also means that it can close one tick above or 100 points above. So just keep that in mind. But the overall direction is bullish, very bullish when price breaks the previous day's high. Because typically the stats.
I think the question would be: is there a continuation like we have with the orb by levels?
Yeah.
So like we break out of the orb and we have the continuation. Is there something like that for
previous day's
breaking
range?
Previous day high, previous day's range, or is that something that
we can do.
I'm trying to quantify it in my head a little bit here, but that's an interesting question there from our bond. If okay, we broke the previous day high, how far do we typically go on average higher than that, than the previous day's range?
Would you want to do it based on previous days, the actual range of the previous day? So it would be similar to that orb by level. You know what I'm saying? So like in this case, you would do like yesterday's range. Let's just say, okay, I'll go to ES quick.
Yeah, I mean, if yesterday's range was 50 points on ES or 100 points on ES, and we take out the high, do we continue 50 points? Do we continue 100 points, which would be what, 50%, 100%?
Yeah.
I would wonder what the
not a bad report idea.
That's actually a really decent idea, right? I can see it being a little bit strange sometimes, because if you have an outside bullish day, a gap up open, I don't know. I feel like it would be useful. It seems like
I mean, we could definitely do it.
Idea.
Yeah, we can definitely do it. And whoever's asking, what I request is that you come down here on your Edgeful app, click this little button, this little support button at the bottom right, this blue one, and then click on Build a Custom Report and give us some details on exactly what you want, because this is actually part of the subscription. So when you are a member of Edgeful, you get all of the reports, all the assets, all the time frames, you get all the trading view indicators, you get the what's in play, and you get to request custom reports, and you get to request custom trading view indicators. So just something to keep in mind, that it's like whatever you want, we'll kind of do it. Obviously, if it's objective and like if it's very black and white, then we can do it. So just keep that in mind, that make a request. Even if you don't know if we can do it, just like shoot the idea and maybe we can discuss like how to do it, how to figure it out and how to build it out for you.
Yeah, that sounds like a very interesting idea. And then kind of a follow-up question here from our bond, same person here. How about the weekly high and low? So that would also be interesting for when we break that previous week's range. So basically the same concept. So if we take out a previous week's high or previous week's low, how far do we typically go? I've noticed a lot of times you take out the previous week's low. I personally, as a trader, I watch that range. I use the indicator from Edgeful actually, and I look for a reclaim into that. But it's always interesting to, okay, how far do we go on average based on the previous week's range? So if the previous week's range was 500 points on NQ, we break the low. Do we go 250 on average, or how often do we go? That I think is an interesting idea for a report as well. Look at this. We're just crowdsourcing reports. Arbon, and he did comment here. He does have Edgeful. Arbon. So when you request, put Andre sent me here down there. Let's see if that raises some eyes over there in the request land. But I really like that, Arbon. I think you should definitely request. Honestly, both of these sound like good ideas to me.
Yeah. So previous week's range, in this case, like let's look at this week, for example, because the indicator really mostly works for this week. But so in this case, once it broke previous week's low, you'd want to see like the continuation to the downside or the average move down. So, I mean, in this case, we're only looking at the New York session, like unless you go to the daily session, which would cover this down here. But what, and Emp, this is even a question for you, like what would you want to see from this? Like from here down or from here down?
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now just to try to get an idea of like what happened this time. We moved what?
This is
13.8. Other than kind of the wiki portion of that, that's interesting. Where it started kind of getting bought back up in a way was right at a point, would be a 1.0 range to the downside. I'm playing with the measuring tool here.
Yeah, last week was 567 points to the downside, and then the move down. So what? Can you share your screen for a second so I can see what you're looking at?
Here, let me me just do this, and let's go to a little bit higher time frame. So I'm measuring this out, and I'm saying, okay, 714 points, right?
Yeah.
So if we go
Oh,
from
so you're
where we broke
using
that,
you're using the
I was just measuring the entire week's range. I was doing it on QQQ first, and I came to this. What's half of 714
oh,
would be like
you're not using it by
250.
session. You're using just the full week's range. Okay. So I just
Yeah,
wanted
just
to,
the full week's range. So I did it on
okay,
QQQ first.
Yeah.
So like, if we look at this on QQQ,
Yeah.
it was right there. It's what we'll call it 13.7.
Yeah.
So there's one, one range, and then the midpoint there would be the 0.5, right?
Yep.
I would just wonder how often by average does that happen? And then like, let's say this was, I wish I could go back and really know here. Let's see. Monday to,
Yeah, the indicator is a little bit tough. It's tough for us to go back.
so this would be the previous week's range
Yeah.
before we broke down and reclaimed, but I would be curious like what the average distance is when it breaks out on either side. I think that would be an interesting.
We
thing.
do have the, let me move
Throw
this
that back to your
here. Yep. So we have the outside. Now this obviously is not talking about extensions, but is talking about the outside close. So if I put back on my previous week's range, and I'm going to use the by session one because I am looking at the New York session. So just for everyone who is watching.
Yeah, I like that. And so like to the clarification here, Andre, so you're looking at by session because you're looking at futures. I like to I look at futures so I have like a set of indicators that I use based on my futures chart, and then I have some different ones that I pay attention more to, like on QQQ, and I just combine the two analysis points. So that's what Andre's showing you here, is that a little bit.
Yeah. So, and the difference is that on Edgeful, when you have this New York session selected, you are filtering out all of the data outside that session. So for example, this is a perfect example here. Your previous week's range, if you do it by the New York session, it's not counting this move right here. It's not counting this little wick down here. It's only considering the price action within each of the 5 New York sessions within last week. So in this case, you can see here's the first one. The lowest point of all the New York sessions is right here, and the highest point is right here.
And I like that. I like that because that's the most important action to me is what happens during New York, the actual cash session that all of this is based off of. It's nice to trade some Globex moves. Every once in a while, I get a little degen on it if I see an opportunity. But at the same time, boy, we are stalling here. Look at your 5-minute. You see your 5-minute chart right now?
Switch one sec.
Zoom in on these candles. Look at it. Look at this.
Yeah, that is rough.
That is disgusting. That's why, look, I called the move. Andre, me and you talked about it. My thesis was we were going to shoot up and fill this gap today. Now that we've done that, to me, it's not really a short right here. It was a scalp short and then counter trend, be done with it. But now this is a tough call. That's why I think this is a perfect time to talk about some of this stuff, because I personally, I don't want to short this other than that one scalp. I don't want to short this again, but I can't get long up here at the gap fill. I mean, it could go another 100 points higher and maybe I'm interested in shorting, but right here, I am not interested in taking a trade either direction. So just so you guys know, my live analysis and trading right now is to not touch this at this point, wait for the next setup, and take advantage of our time. Yeah.
And I mean, it also doesn't, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me at least, I'm fine to say, hey, I'm done for today. There was a pretty explosive move to the top side. Now there's consolidation. The move is pretty extended. Do I want to continue to trade this? Now, I just realized that the initial bounce has just set in, the
We
1
just
hour
got
initial
it
balance.
set. Yeah. And
So
we just broke. Did we break it right there?
no, not yet. Not yet.
We're right at
Super
it,
close. Yeah, we're a point and a half away. But now you can maybe start to look at a higher time frame, like a 1 hour, looking just from a higher perspective, like not looking at like a 1 minute candle or whatever, and getting some understanding of, okay, I'm expecting price to break out of one side of the IB, et cetera, et cetera. But this is not something I'm interested in. And I personally don't do well in this at all, because the way that I see these, what typically happens to me is, obviously, let's pretend this price action doesn't exist.
KV's doing the degen work for us right now.
Yep, good.
See that comment?
I hope. Let us know how it goes.
Hey, we're cheering
for
you.
Me, yeah, for sure. For me, I look at this and I say, okay, there's been a move up, continuation higher, no real pullback so far. And then now, okay, I say, this is the way that I personally start to look at this when I notice I'm like tilting or something. If I notice that my rules start kind of going out the window, this is the perfect environment for me that like traps me, where I'm like, okay, the move down is starting. Here's the bigger pullback. And then what happens is the move comes back up. Now, new high of day, price continues down. Now, again, in my head, I'm like, okay, new high of day was taken. It failed. The shorts are coming back in. And then this is where you kind of get smoked, because you start to get chopped up and chopped around. And especially if you're trading options, which I don't know how many people watching trade options, like this is a disaster, especially on a Friday. If you're trading zero DTEs, you are getting smoked right now. Even if you entered puts probably right here, you're probably red right now, to be honest. Right?
Yeah,
Would you say that you're...
Yeah, most likely, because we just spent 30 minutes chopping in the same range. Every one of those candles was closing in the same, like, on NQ, the same, like, 5 to 10 point range there for 30 minutes. Yeah. That's going to kill, especially on Fridays. If you have 0 DT on Friday, you're getting absolutely smoked.
Good luck.
Now, if you shorted, like, Microsoft right now, you're getting absolutely paid, by the way.
Yeah. So when do you have some, like, what does your chart look like, or your charts or your screens look like, that you can see, or that you do see all of these things, and you notice that Microsoft, like, do you have, I'll just try to, let me see what I can do here.
You see this behind me?
Yep, there it is. That's the thing. That's how it goes.
Yeah, so that's actually Webull, which I rarely even trade off of anymore, but I've had it forever, and I've had this built out. I have six charts over here. I go QQQ, SPY, IWM, so the 3 main indices I watch, and I go NVIDIA, Microsoft, and I rotate this last one with my watch list, basically the same type of watch list you have with those top 10 QQQ stocks, a couple other ones that I like to keep an eye on. I have like Exxon in there, I have Walmart in there, AMD I have out here still, just a couple other names that I keep an eye on some. But yeah, that's how, and what I do is on these 5-minute charts, I have a VWAP, and then I have a 9, I actually have a 9, 15, and 21 EMA.
Oh, nice.
So that way I can just kind of see what's going on in the different things, the behavior of different stocks or whatever.
Do you ever look at the tick, the NYSE tick? I mentioned briefly.
I don't. I know people that do look at this a lot, because when you get that really extended tick, a lot of times you can fade it, especially if you're a scalper.
Yeah.
I listened to a couple of the guys that I trade with. One of the guys on Spaces, he watches it. And he'll be like, "Wow, that was a 2,000 extended tick right there."
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay.
Crazy.
I do watch Bookmap back here behind me. I keep an eye on time and sells a little bit. So I have a time and sells filter for like anything over 8 to 10 NQ filling.
Oh, nice.
And then I also just watch the Bookmap back here. And I watch cumulative delta too, because I want to know throughout the day, is there more buying or selling going on? That big day down we had on Monday, believe it or not, cumulative delta on Monday was positive for NQ.
Wow.
More people were buying into that dip, and that's what kind of gave me confidence to play back to the upside all day.
Yeah,
was because they were buying the dip.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows now, I don't have it up here, But cumulative delta is pretty much like, so there is a passive buyer and seller, and then there is an aggressive buyer and seller. So if you place a market order, you're an aggressive buyer or seller, which means that you're willing, you say, I want to get in now, and I want to get in at the market price, whatever. You don't determine the price. When you're a passive seller, you're using limit orders. So you let the market come to you. So if we talk, let's just look at ES for 1 sec. So, or whatever, NQ, it doesn't really matter. Let's say that you have a sell order. Let's say you're long here and you have a sell order at 21,950. You're a passive seller. So you're waiting for price to come to you. What the cumulative delta is all of the aggressive, so all of the market orders combined. So let's say I place an order, I buy with a market order of 10 contracts, and then EMP sells market order with 5, the cumulative delta will be +5 because I bought more than he did. And that's the way that it works. So what the reason that people look at it and what it is pretty much just the gauge of how aggressive the buyers and sellers are and kind of who is putting in more effort to get price to move. Yeah.
And you can also, and you put it with, well, you put it in some context with it. So like if you're making a move, a directional move, you can look at that and see, okay, do we see a lot of, do we see people continuing to short it if we're in a downtrend? Or do we start to see a lot of those shorts buying it back and covering?
Yeah.
Or do we see longs coming in? But sometimes you'll look and you'll see, we're in a downtrend and we get like a little pop or whatever, and you see that cumulative delta just shoot down. You're like, okay, they're shorting the pop. The sellers are still pushing this thing, looking for lower. That's another, just trader tip. I think that is fantastic for people. If you're maybe a level 2 type of trader where you've got your basic analysis and you're starting to add more tools to your tool belt, definitely something to look into.
You know what I think is, I've tried to, when I first started to trade, a lot of people said, oh, you got to start to learn to read the tape. And when I first started to actually look at level 2, a not filtered level 2 on something like a SPY, you practically can't even see the nut, like you can't even see the orders. It's just ripping so quick. Yeah. And I never understood. Yeah. I never understood how, I use Thinkorswim, but I never understood how people could read the tape. But the tape filtering, so if you filter for a certain order size, so just so everyone who knows, times and sales is what we're talking about. Times and sales is literally every single transaction. So if you buy 3 contracts or 3 shares of SPY, it'll appear on the times and sales of an executed transaction, whatever it is. But as a trader, you don't want to see every single order that comes in. You want to see maybe you want to see the larger orders. So like, let's say you filter it, on NQ, you filter it for 10 contracts or you filter it for 20 contracts or whatever. That allows you to see kind of more aggressive buying or selling. And I never understood how people can read an unfiltered times and sales. It literally blows my mind. Like I don't really believe in it. I don't believe that people can actually do it. Like
I filter it for massive orders, and I do it only on futures for massive orders. I know some really good traders that use time and sells, but they use it on SPX on the actual options themselves. Oh, so they're looking for big orders on just the options. So if they're like, okay, we're right now we're at 61.15 on SPX. If they're looking at like 6,100 puts right now, they're watching that time and sells for it to pick up, and they're watching like the bid ask on it. That I understand that side of tape reading, but just reading the actual like full indice tape is to me that's insane. I don't. Yeah. I'm highly ADHD, and I don't feel like I could keep up with that. Plus all the other stuff going on. Like I don't think I would ever be able to actually enter a trade.
Wait, how's that short going? Who's short right now? KB?
I think he got stopped out.
Oh no, we got stopped out 5 minutes ago.
Which it's still coming back in his favor. So when I'm looking at this, we broke out, pushed a little bit higher. Can we get continuation? I don't know. We're still so extended. So one thing that I watch a lot, and if you followed my stream before, you know this, the 21 EMA. On trend days like this, I watch the 9 and 21 EMA. I watch those every day, but also that outer VWAP band that we've talked about. Me and Andre talked about that last stream as well. We haven't touched that outer VWAP band even since 950. and we haven't touched the 21 EMA since the second candle of the day, basically 9:35. So to me, it's like I would rather wait for this to go much higher and get more extended to maybe the next level up, or when we get a dip, that first dip into the 21 EMA, there's a scalp almost every single time there. A scalp long almost every single time. If you haven't touched the 21 EMA in an hour and a half, I mean, where are we at? We're at just over an hour right now. We haven't touched it. The first time you come back and touch it, you almost always get a 20 to 25 point bounce. I guess I'll be generous with that off of that EMA. So I almost always will scalp a buy. I mean, if I can get 20, 25 points, just get in and out.
And in this case, I mean, if you just look at this setup right now, at 21,900, round psychological number, area of consolidation, coming right into that 9 EMA right here. This blue one is my 9 EMA.
That's also the backfill of the gap, or that back test of the gap fill breakout 900. Remember what I drew at? Yeah.
Obviously not financial advice, but this is not a horrible long setup right now. To be honest,
it's really not. When you consolidate somewhere for 30 minutes, break out from it, back test.
Yeah.
Now, if it fails, then you look for that orb high again. But I mean, the trend's up, right? I just don't.
What I wanted to,
I have low expectations the rest of the day, to be 100% honest here.
Yeah, I mean, the move kind of happened, and one of the things, I mean, roughly a 135 point move in the first hour or so is I mean, not even the first.
We still have a lot of range left, though, if we're being honest, and we have that report. That I go to this report pretty often. So average daily range.
On the what's in play, you can see right down here. So it'll actually tell you the price, the open, and it will tell you we filled 55% of the ADR. The range today is 175 points, and the ADR is 315. So you don't even need to calculate anything.
That's beautiful. Here. And so like I use that. I combine that looking at average daily range for. Yep. And is that for the entire? Is that for New York, or is that the entire?
New York only. This is a New York only.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to make sure of. Because I'll look at that, which our daily ranges have been bigger the last few days, and then I'll also go to just the volume report, the volume and range report, and I'll see what's our average range on Fridays, and I'll compare that as well. Yep. So that's the other. The other way.
One thing to note about this. One thing to note about this one, this is the 5-day. This is the 5-day ADR, which we should put in here. I just wanted to mention that because it's not in here. I just realized, which we'll add it in. But we're looking at the 5-day. I know some people. I don't know if you look at the 14-day. That's like more standard. But
a lot of people look at that one. I look at the one that you guys have on here because I like having the data with it. And then I will actually go manually into your report for the average range, and I'll look at the last 3 months, last 6 months, and I'll just see what is our what's our average range on Fridays or whatever day of the week it is. What's our average range for that day? If you want to pull up that report just so people know what I'm talking about, it's under volume
and range report.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, that one right there. Volume range by weekday, and I'll take a look at New York session and Friday. Change that from percent to.
So.
Oh, is that gone?
We removed it. Now, I have a question.
Okay.
You and I had spoken about this a lot, actually, about how the points don't scale. So the percentages scale. So we removed it, but I'm just gonna show everyone why we removed it. And this is going to make a lot more sense in a second.
I know why, but I'm interested to see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So if we look at something like NVIDIA, and you see right over here in the beginning of 2024, is roughly a $50 stock. Whatever. Let's exclude the split because the data is adjusted for the split. But it's a $50 stock. So down here, a $5 move is a 10% move. If you take that same $5 move now, that's roughly a 3% move.
Yeah.
So
because we're 150% higher than we were last January.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason that you can't use the dollar ranges is because when price goes up and down a lot, then you have like you're using, like in this case, if you were to use the 1 year period, you're going to average in $5 or like $1, $2, $3 moves down here with $10, $8, whatever. I mean, those are pretty reasonable moves for NVIDIA now. I mean, this day here was $13. So
yeah, that was insane.
averaging.
But I see what you're saying. So like the percent, it's always more accurate to measure in percents because it's based on current price. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would not use a large data set for this report. I would look at like the last month, the last 3 months, maybe 6 months at the most. But yeah, I started looking at that a little bit, just have an idea of what the average range is. But I can do it by I can just use the measuring tool and do it by percent, just the same.
So what we could do, and I mean, for anyone who's watching, let us know if you want us to add. Wow, look at that. Let us know if you want us to add it back, the dollar amount. Now, we got this question a lot about some of the other reports, like please add the dollars. As long as you understand that what you're looking at could be skewed, then that's fine. But the reason that we have the percentages is because we don't want people to get the wrong impression about what the ranges should be or what the ranges are. Because
I think that's a nice. Yeah, I think that's a nice spell safe for people to not get confused. Honestly, that makes perfect sense. And I've talked about this before on Spaces, a little bit on the stream. And I don't know if I've ever spoke with this about you, Andre, but when I look at NQ right now, if you go back a year, I mean, we're what, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 points higher. You know, we're much higher than where we were a year ago. If you were trading, let's say you do use the micros. If you were trading 15 micros a year ago, that 15 micros today is more like what, 9 or 8 for the same amount of leverage. You need to know, like, hey, I need to either your account is hopefully growing, right? Hopefully you have a bigger account than you had a year ago. But if you're trading based on just sizing and you say, well, I always trade with 3 minis, 3 full NQs or 20 micros. If that's what you normally trade with, well, as time goes by, we're a year down the road, that is way more leverage than it was, 12 months ago. Way more leverage. So it's a great point here. Look at that beautiful. Andre just called out a beautiful live trade, not financial advice. It's a nice little 20-point scalp right back into ORPI, or no, right back into off of ORPI, right back into.
This is the IB pivot. High. I'll put on the orb too.
The IB high is right. Yes, and it's also the R1 pivot. It's funny how a lot of those things line up some days.
Yeah. Oh, you use the 30-minute orb. I forget that.
I do. Yeah. So I look at 30-minute orb and I look at the IB, the 1 hour.
Yeah.
Which we did finally break. We broke to the upside. We know the stats on that tell me not to look for a reversal to the downside. More times than not, 15% I think chance now, since we broke the IB high, that we will not break that IB low. So it's it's only 15% chance that we can go break the IB low now, which is a very, very, very low percentage. One of my favorite reports. Oh, wow, it's even lower.
So let me just make sure my settings are right.
Okay. By wick, yes.
Yep. I just want to make sure that this. Yep, there it is. So
15.
15.
You guys can tell I actually use this product, right? Like, I hope the audience realizes, like, I'm not just on here saying, "Hey, this is cool. I'm streaming with Edgeful," right? No, I have a lot of these numbers memorized. Now I go check them often because they do change, right? You can't just screenshot them and memorize them, but I check them almost daily. And so I know if it's 15, if it's up to 17, 18, it moves around. And some of them move drastically. Some of them, I've noticed SPY has been acting a little bit differently the last month. It is much different. The gap fills have been kind of weird over the last month and a half.
Yes, they have been. And I've honestly not been enjoying it. Full disclosure, I've not been enjoying this finicky gap stats recently. But yeah, like some of them, like the IB has been super consistent recently, very, very consistent recently. And then if you look at, for example, now on the 15-minute orb specifically, and you look at ES, which I'll pull up quickly, 15-minute orb, ES, and then you look at the Q1 of 2024 ES, and then let me just go to Yep, to that. Okay. Let this load one sec. What's going on here? Have you had any issues, by the way, with the
I've
disconnections
had
recently?
just a little bit. So I had like this morning, the first time I fired up before I jumped on stream, the first time I fired it up this morning, I had to click refresh twice. Then it started working just fine after that.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any issues since. Every once in a while, if I load like 5 or 6 reports in a row, like the next one I go to, I'll just have to hit refresh. It always comes back pretty quickly.
Yeah, because we were testing it internally, and we have, I mean, whatever our team was touched.
You don't have 1,000 users in there. Like,
yeah, we don't have 1,000 people testing it out in like the testing environment. But then when we release it to the public, all the servers kind of get like, they break because we have like so many people testing it now or using it now. So that's why. But we've added new servers, so that should help. I haven't had too many issues. Like, you haven't seen on my screen any disconnections recently, which is great. But yeah, that's why I asked. Options grower. Question about discounts. We will never do a discount of any kind. The only discount that we have is the 20% off for the annual plan. Edgeful is $49 a month and $39 if you pay on the annual plan, but it absolutely pays for itself. It's less than the profits of one trade. It is absolutely worth it. And we do have a free trial if you want to go look at it, but I do not recommend waiting for like a July 4th sale, Christmas, Black Friday. We will never do any sales ever.
I have days where I spend more than that commissions on futures.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, come on. What are we? But yeah, so what I really like about that is how it's fixed, transparent pricing. It's not, hey, let's throw out all these crazy. One thing that I've always, and maybe it's just a personal thing. One thing I've always hated is like the old JCPenney model. It used to drive me crazy. My mom, she would be like, look, this shirt is 30% off. You know, it was originally $50 and now it's, $35, and you can get an additional 10% off this weekend for Groundhog Day or something. I'm like,
yep,
Mom, that was never a $50 shirt. Look at the shirt from JCPenney. That was never a $50 shirt. It's always on sale all the time. I don't like that model. And it is, I understand where it tricks a lot of consumers, and I get it, but I hate that person. I like the transparency. Here's our price. This is always our price. This is what we think it's valued at, and we think there's great 100%. Value here for the consumer at their price. I hate when it's like something's always 90% off or something's always 80% off. It's like, what are we doing here? Just tell me what the price is and stop changing the discount by 10% every other month for some promo. You run a promo the price is this, the value is there. Here's what you get. One package. There's not 19 levels to figure out what I need. One price, one package. Don't have to worry about, did I miss a discount? Do I need to wait a month to get in for the next sale to go? No, just it is what it is. I love that strategy.
Yeah, and the transparency, like, there's no BS with us. Like, there's no, like, we're not hiding it. Like, you get everything. You get, and I'm not trying to sell it at all. I'm just trying to explain what you guys get, because honestly, there is a lot more to it than a lot of people realize. But you get 4 different asset types. So if you trade equities, if you trade options, if you trade Forex, crypto, or futures, there's something for you. You get every single ticker that you can imagine. And if we don't have something, you can actually request us to add it. And if we have access to it, we will be happy to add it. You can request reports from us, like completely custom reports. You can go back up to 5 years on any report that we build. You can customize your sessions. You can request sub-reports. You can filter everything on your own. We have the live data. We have the discovery page. We have 35 trading view indicators. I mean, there's really not much. I mean, I don't know what else someone would need to justify to justify $49. But I mean, most
Yeah.
people spend that on Chipotle and coffee like in a day, and then
Every time we talk about this, I'm like scared to even mention, like, dude, the value here is crazy. Like, because I don't want you to turn around and like be like, oh, do we need to raise prices? I don't want to do that to myself and to the users.
Yeah.
But man, the value is absolutely insane here. I mean,
yeah,
$49. I guarantee we spend that at Starbucks in a month, if not in a couple weeks. And we don't even go that often. $9.52. Let me call this out real fast. The fib extension I was looking at earlier, we rejected. This is the next one. This is the 1.618. Based on yesterday's range, this is the next fib extension. We might see a little bit of rejection here. It's also 950. There were some orders here. So just a possible, maybe a take profit area. If you were going to scalp short, I mean, knock yourself out. We're in a tough uptrend here, but we are super extended. That 21 EMA is all the way down at 882 still, trying to keep up, and it's at a 45-degree angle. When I start to see that, it's like, okay, I don't want to be long here. If anything, I want it to come back down to earth, and I want to buy it long there, or
like this entry
scalp
right
it
here
to it.
was unbelievable.
Yeah,
this entry at 21,900 was just unreal. I mean, obviously I didn't take it, but it was a perfect right off the consolidation.
50, off 50-point trade from from Andre here on the stream.
Yeah.
Live trading, analysis, all kinds of great stuff. Yeah. I was going to ask you something else earlier. I got distracted because we went down a very nice path right there.
What's up?
Just taking a look around to see what else is going on. We are making new highs here, pretty much on everything as far as the indices go. IWM's kind of just chopping. Broadcom is our biggest gainer that I watch. It's up 4.7%. Tesla's up 4%. CrowdStrike's having a nice day. Amazon's up 2% right at the highs. Google at the highs. NVIDIA's about to make a new high day, up 2%. Jensen Huang going to the White House today. Did you see that news?
No. Wow.
Yeah, Jensen Huang is meeting with Trump today.
Is that why the video is ripping?
Yeah. If you look at pre-market, you can see right when it started ripping in pre-market is when, right there, that's when the headline came out.
Yep. Honestly, I have my thoughts about NVIDIA, and I know that it's very cult-like, and I know that people really like it. But
I want to know your thoughts, actually. I'm ready for this.
Listen, I don't, and I'll be the first to say it. I don't understand. I haven't done the research. I don't understand what the future capabilities are of AI and how much of the market NVIDIA owns. Now, I'm assuming it's practically all of it, which is obviously very important for everything AI related, everything chip related, because a lot of the ChatGPTs, the Google the Gemini from Google, Meta AI, whatever, all the other major Claude, all the other major AI
Llama, everyone's using NVIDIA,
models
right?
Require the NVIDIA chips. Now, that justifies obviously a massive move up. However, I just don't understand how split adjusted, it goes from, I mean, even if we don't call the bottom, like you're looking at from when the run really started, let's just say new all-time highs was this massive earnings gap right here. You're looking at up to all-time highs, 325% in just over 2 years. And then right as of price right now, it's 250% in just over 2 years. I don't see a world where this doesn't happen, at least to an extent.
Something corrects it, right?
Now, from 2020 to 2022, right over here, Tesla was the golden child of Wall Street. Everybody loved it. All the funds loved it. They only talked about it on the news. And what happened? A whole lot of this.
That looks eerily similar to where we're at on the video right now, by the way. That's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah. And then what happens is eventually, like every other stock, it's no longer the poster child of Wall Street. And then what happens? Something like this, where and I'm not saying it's going to correct and it's going to go back to whatever, $80 or whatever, or not even $80. I meant to say like $50. But at least some sort of meaningful correction. Like, this is just ridiculous. And now the perspective has shifted from Tesla being the golden child to NVIDIA being the golden child. And I personally am not a buyer anywhere over here. If it gets below 100, if it gets to 90s, I am fine doing that. And then now, to be specific, I'm not talking about trading it. I'm talking about like adding into a portfolio or like buying in chunks in a longer term hold. I am not a buyer above 100, and I might look like the biggest idiot in the world in a few years when this is trading at $700 a share. But it's pretty hard to justify. It's pretty hard to justify since 2020. It's pretty hard to justify a 2,500% move, or even a 2,000% move in 4 years.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll add a couple thoughts here. So to me, that doesn't mean short it at all.
Yes, for sure.
I think this is such a market outlier because this is AI is the next big thing, right? Like, we really haven't seen something just revolutionary really since back in the dot-com bubble. Now, I think it's fair to say that the market has learned a lot of lessons since the dot-com bubble, because everybody that's been trying to call this a bubble for the last, year and a half, really, at this point, I think they're mistaken. If it is a bubble, it's still early in the bubble. But I think that lessons were learned. History can rhyme, but it doesn't necessarily have to repeat itself, right? In this case, I just think I think this is one of the toughest things, and that's why even your top analysts, they're like a little wishy-washy on it at this point, but they're still like, they're not doubting it. But at the same time, there is a case where, and we saw that, this big sell-off caused by DeepSeek, and the claim, where we still don't know the full details or anything, but the claim that somebody could do this much, much cheaper than what it's currently be done as. Now, once again, we don't know all the details there, and they'll come out in due time. And until those details come out, it's just speculation. But to me, with NVIDIA, it is the best in class by far. There's nobody that touches it. Just like Tesla versus Rivian, or one of these other EV companies, or even these legacy automakers. There's nothing that touches it technology-wise. That's why AMD at second best is still trading at a super high multiple, and you can see nobody wants to buy it. Why would you buy second best? It's trading at a crazy forward PE. Yeah,
and AMD is actually doing horrendous in terms of like its performance. Like, I think it's it's practically flat.
Yeah, and so I look at that, and I look at NVIDIA, and I go, okay, is it something I want to have in my portfolio? Yes, it is something I want to have in my portfolio until something in the narrative drastically changes. But it's not something I want to continue buying more of at this point. Sometimes in both trading and investing, if you missed out on something, you missed out, right? And if you're willing to buy it and hold it for a long, long time, it's probably going to go higher. We know the statistics on that most things, if you buy and hold, they're going to end up going higher. But you don't typically want to just be buying after a massive move. It may consolidate here. One final comment, we don't have to harp on this, but one final comment I'll make is, a lot of people are worried that the CapEx spend is going to start getting cut back down a little bit, which some people are looking at that as negative for the entire market. I think it's a net positive, because if I'm Microsoft, if I'm Meta, if I'm Tesla, and I'm spending billions and billions of dollars building out these data centers and these chips, at some point I am going to have some type of refresh costs, right? I'm going to have some kind of cycle costs to get the next best thing as it comes out every few years. But once you've made that initial spend and investment, at some point you're going to start getting some type of return on that investment, right? I think that's where, if the CapEx spend comes down, hopefully, right? And unless it comes out in the next few years that, hey, this can be done way, 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 way cheaper. And we've seen that scenario happen across a lot of technologies in the past too. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't think it trading Nvidia. I think you can definitely trade it because it moves, because
Yeah.
there is so much question marks around it, right? I think it's going to move based on narratives a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
look at what just happened on Monday, because the narrative shifted and all of a sudden it scared everyone. Nobody was really prepared for that. It moved very nicely. And so as long as you have the speculation aspect, you're going to have volatility, which is great as a trader. As an investor, it's like, do I really want to sink, a whole lot of funds? Do I really want to be DCAing in this name aggressively?
Yeah.
With new funds, if I wasn't already in. I mean, why buy now when you didn't buy 6 months ago, when you didn't buy a year ago, because it was up too much then. So the longer that goes on, a lot of people last summer, it's too high. Nvidia's too high. Pre-split, it's over 1,000. It's way too high. It needs to come back down.
Yeah.
And it really hasn't. So what's different now that makes you want to buy it then? I don't know.
You can also get exposure to it through ETFs. So in terms of you can get it through QQQ, which also obviously is a little bit more like it owns a lot of, like it holds a lot of other things. And I by the way, I am bullish on NVIDIA, 100%. I am very bullish on NVIDIA.
I do think it goes higher.
Yeah.
I just think it's the risk to reward to try to sink a lot of funds into it. It's a tough call at this point. It's just a really tough call.
And if I bought down here, now sometimes I try to flip the script. So if I had bought here in early 2023, would I be taking profits here? Let's say it's a trading account, like I have long-term investment accounts, which I'll never touch. But if this is a trading account, would I be taking profits here? Like trying to flip the script. Like anytime I'm considering even a trade, whether it's on a 1 minute time frame, 5 minute time frame, whatever it is, or however narrow or wide it is, I think if I want to go long, I think, is this a good area to short? And I'm like, what are the shorts thinking? What is someone else thinking? And that's like kind of the way that at least
a good bull knows where the bears are waiting, and a good bear knows where the bulls are waiting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So like if I was trading this and I had caught it at whatever, at $50 or something, would I be taking profits here? I mean, I would definitely take something off.
Yeah,
I would definitely be taking a piece off if I was investing. But what I did here with these little other lines, these are all the other semiconductors. And like, if you just look in the last year, the only two that are even close are Broadcom and TSM and Taiwan Semiconductors. The rest are like not even remotely close in the last year in terms of performance. But I mean, again, I don't know. Long term, I am very bullish on NVIDIA, so I don't want anyone to get that twisted. But I am
and I'll make a counterpoint, a bullish counterpoint here. Just put on a 200-day simple moving average.
Wow, that is clean.
So what we see at this 200-day moving average, and when you haven't touched it in years, there's probably people that have been waiting to buy this literally for years, thinking, okay, if it gets to 200-day, I'll buy it. And I'm looking at this going, okay, we got the 200-day. It slightly undercut it. It's now reclaimed it. You look at the daily closes, holding right on it. To me, that is like, okay, if you are going to take your shot at NVIDIA, because we look at this with a lot of different tickers too, something that you wanted to be long in, if it does come down to a 200-day, like if you go to Apple, just jump over to Apple real fast. I
actually just bought Apple the other day at 222.
I was waiting on that 200, and I missed this one. I completely missed buying some more Apple on this right here, because I was like, okay, I think it's going to hit that 200 and break through it. There was another stock that just did the same thing. I think Caterpillar.
What's the ticker for that?
CAT. Look at that. Set on the 200, slightly undercut it, and then look what happened.
Look at those gaps too.
Yeah, no, so we had the Dow in general the Dow Jones had its like worst performance since like '87, as far as like red streaks just coming down. I mean, it
Oh
was
my
crazy. Yes. So look at this. There's a lot of names in the Dow that I really like, and look at the bottom of that wick. Look at the 200.
Yeah, this
No,
is
keep
like
going.
this is crazy. Like
That
this
is
is
insane.
insane.
That
Yeah.
is what we call a softball pitch right there. That is just toss
Yeah.
it up, take your shot. That's as clean as a trade as you'll ever see.
Yeah. I mean, wow, that is kind of insane, actually. Yeah, literally right to the tick, pretty much. I never look at YM, honestly. I never trade it.
I do
Never look at it.
So like I don't trade it, but I do like look at it. And what the other thing I look at is there's several names in there that I really like. Some of these really big names that
What
I
are they?
just think. So Caterpillar's one I really like.
Yeah.
Honeywell's one I really like. NVIDIA, Amazon's in there. UNH, Berkshire.
Yep.
Who else is in there? Those are just ones like off the top of my head. I know Apple's in there. Boeing's another one that's a complete turnaround story right now, which Boeing doesn't look like any of these other charts. But when Boeing was down at 130, I was all over buying it. Look at the move that
down
Boeing's made.
here.
Yeah,
Where is
or no, right there.
Oh, and the 130 is right over here.
130. Yeah, it was like 140. What it like it was 137 or something.
Yep. Right
Yeah,
under 140, right over here.
And look at the reclaim of the 200 right there. Slight dip below it, and then it's continued. But Boeing, I think, is one that you look at, for investing type of stuff. And I don't know that I like that one. You know what Boeing kind of reminds me of? Do you remember what GE did?
Dude, GE is the most absurd stock ever. This stock was crushed forever.
So the turnaround story on GE, tell me that Boeing can't have a similar turnaround to GE.
I mean, they're in the same. They're
similar industry,
extremely
beaten to hell. But at what point do you realize there's only two major companies that make airplanes?
Yeah.
So when I think about that, I think, okay, is this a turnaround story? And then GE also, it spun off that, what is it, GEV, like the energy side of things?
I guess. This I haven't heard of.
Look at this. This is the spin
Oh, wow,
off.
this is new.
If you had GE, I think you automatically got three shares of this in the split.
Wow. I mean, you're up huge.
Yeah. Insane.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
And Honeywell, so just a little extra alpha here. Look at Honeywell. Honeywell has this crazy, basically, consolidation over if you almost go to the monthly on this, and you'll see the consolidation. Zoom in a little bit right there, and you'll see this consolidation, that pullback consolidation. Look at the curl here on the monthly. Honeywell also, they're involved in quantum computing. They're involved in a lot of things that AI will also help with.
Yep.
And they're looking at splitting off a piece of their business as well. So if you're looking for parallels,
it's not bad.
I like it. I like that name a lot. And it's funny because I just one day I was thinking about different companies that I started looking around, as I become more of a trader and investor. I started looking around at what products do I use? What products am I spending money on? Dell was one of those. I spent so much money on Dell for our small business that I was like, I need to own some of this stock. And then Honeywell,
they only went
I
public
didn't really
in
notice much about it.
2018?
I believe so.
Dell only went public in 2018? Wow, I did not know that.
But they're separating their automation and aerospace businesses. So Honeywell getting in, with aerospace and that being a big kind of theme coming, and they split that off. Look what GE's done. I don't know. It just seems like that should be on the radar. So A lot of interesting things, and that Honeywell consolidation reminds me of Costco. If you look at Costco over the last 3 years before this breakout,
Honestly, this chart is so absurd for like what it is.
so right there in the middle, very middle of your screen, that peak that it made right in the middle. Yeah, so that actually creates a beautiful triangle breakout. So there was a triangle that broke out there, and you look at it, and it breaks out and it goes. Yeah, so like that, and then you draw the bottom side of it, and that's a powerful triangle there. And even if you extended the bottom of that bottom line to the left, it goes back to the previous lows as well. Like if you take that line and just go back, yes. Yeah, check that out. So
yeah, that's crazy.
And so looking at that and what Costco did, Honeywell, I think, has a similar setup that it's broke out of, and it's consolidating in that kind of next phase. And I honestly think Honeywell's chart looks like it wants to do maybe not this full move, right, but a similar breakout continuation move. I mean, Costco is just ridiculous. You want to know my favorite company in the whole world? I talk about this on Spaces all the time. Walmart. Look at a Walmart chart and tell me it's not the prettiest chart you've ever seen.
Well, dude, I don't understand Walmart, but their margins are razor thin.
They're the biggest retailer but as far as like whatever revenue, they're the largest revenue. They're bigger than Amazon still. They're all over the planet. They're all over the
billion
world.
Dollars or something. I know. It's a crazy stock.
They found a way to get into some of the e-commerce stuff by having stuff listed on their site that they can sell and fulfill because they have the distribution network.
Yep.
Who do you think benefits from AI? These massive companies that can spend money on AI and automate more things.
Yep.
Walmart, I think, goes right into that bucket. Some of these other, Caterpillar, I think, goes into that bucket because Caterpillar, if you think about construction, like think about all the Caterpillar machines that build stuff. Yeah. When they can start driving those things, like we are sitting right here looking at monitors, and have them do some of their own work, and they can control them all remotely. You don't have 10 workers out there on a work site. You have 2 or 3 driving some stuff around. You have less accidents and stuff. I mean, that's just some of the things that I think about going forward here.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. And I do have a question about Walmart. Are you buying here?
There's no way you're buying here. There's no way.
I was just curious.
No. I've been holding. I've sold some. Honestly, I need to sell more just because you look at this. Look at the angle of that chart, and tell me that's not insane.
It's just vertical. Like
this
is honestly
it's
insane.
Absolutely crazy. And the funny thing is, nobody was talking about Walmart. I know Walmart very, very well because it's from Arkansas. It was created in Arkansas. A lot of people back in the 80s and 90s made a ton of money on Walmart stock in Arkansas because they were on the ground floor, right? But I have a bunch of friends, family members, and people that have gone to work for them in like the upper level headquarter type of stuff.
Yep.
And everything that they do is just they do it very well. And people love to rag on Walmart. Oh, people in pajamas, but you're still going to Walmart. They're still everywhere. And you go around the world, they're everywhere too. And like, for example, where I live down here in Mexico, there's multiple Walmarts, multiple Sam Clubs. There's Walmart Express, which is like your neighborhood mart. And then we have these things called Bodega Aurrera, which is essentially like a Dollar General, like the little dollar stores. Yeah. Walmart owns them all.
Oh, really?
They own every one of them. You go to pay, there's a Walmart logo on the payment terminal.
That's crazy.
They own them all. And a lot of people don't realize, okay, it's not just Walmart stores. There's so much stuff going on. But that's an insane chart, and it's going. I mean, at this point, it's making all-time highs every other day, but it's going to 100. I mean, any stock at 90 pretty much goes to 100. That's old Wall Street little adage there.
Yeah, for sure. I did not realize. I personally don't try to pick stocks in my longer term. I never swing trade for multiple months. I'll never buy something. Actually, the first stock I ever bought, $65. Bought Ferrari stock.
Ferrari? I was like, oh, what ticker is this? Yeah, Ferrari.
Bought the Ferrari stock at $65. One of the first things that like I actually was like did my research, whatever else, like all that, and sold it for like a decent gain, but did never thought about a move like this. But yeah, bought it at $65. That's like my first ever real analysis, like did true analysis, did all the research, like their engine manufacturing, they whatever, everything, their F1 team and all the revenue that generates. And
yeah, it's well, they're massive. And when you have a wait list, you're a backlog of orders. I mean, is that not inherently like a bullish thing?
Yeah,
it's interesting what people. So like, I have kind of like a 3-prong approach of like just my longer term holdings.
Yeah.
One day I buy good solid companies that I know I can just have a store value that's going to go up higher.
Yeah.
Which in that basket is a lot of like your Max 7. And most people like, okay, before I go into that, most people should not be stock pickers. They don't have the time. They don't have the expertise. They should buy the Qs, buy SPY, and just DCA into it and just keep buying, right? That's what most everyone should do. There are people that have the time, have the expertise, and can go in and outperform the market. And so, am I one of those people? I don't know. I'm probably close to break even on SPY, maybe a little bit better. But what I've done is I've found a circle of people around me that are much smarter than me in certain areas, and I lean on them and figure out what's going on. Actually. I see one of the guys that is in a podcast we're doing, Sam Solid, shout out. Him and some of the guys in his podcast that we've launched, they do all this stuff. They have expertise in industries. They do deep dives into revenue growth multiples and EBITDA and all this stuff. So I lean on some of that. So I 3-prong approach. I buy things that I know that are popular and that I know, things that I'm using every day. I mean, Netflix, Dell, On shoes, the On Cloud shoes, ticker on. I buy things. Yeah, dude. Okay, look at this chart real fast. On.
What is it?
ON.
Wow.
I was buying this thing in the 20s because I went every time you're in an airport, Andre, look down at the floor and tell me how many pairs of shoes you see that are On shoes. Yeah. I noticed this 2 years ago, and I said, one, I want one of those shoes. Like, I want a pair of those shoes, and I bought a pair, and I love them, and I'm going to buy another pair. But also, I see everyone in the world buying these shoes. Why would I not want to be long this stock? Yeah. It seems like there's crazy growth here. So buying things that you know, in a way. And then, okay, so here's the other side of this. There are some companies that, even if you buy and hold, you can be underwater. Nike has an issue. Intel. If you bought Intel in 1997, you're at break even right now.
Yeah, that sucks, honestly.
That's crazy.
That is hard to believe, especially considering that they made all the chips for every Apple computer for the last, I don't know how many years until Apple started making their own. That is insane to me.
But yeah, so there are some companies that like buying and holding doesn't work for if there's a major issue within the company or they were overvalued, whatever. But
what's the deal
for the
with
most
Nike,
part?
by the way? But sorry, continue. And I want to.
China's one of the big issues. One of the big issues, but they're not innovating, right? They're losing market share in a way. They're spending tons of money. I mean, I still think they're okay. And honestly, now where they're at after this, like Nike's probably somewhat of a buy at this point. But actually, look at this. Here's I just saw this comment too.
Hoka, yeah.
Hoka shoes. You know Hoka shoes? That's ticker Decker Outdoors.
What a candle today. What happened?
That was earnings last night.
Wow.
That was earnings. The earnings weren't good, but the daily chart, their guidance I think was rough. I was so focused on Apple, I didn't get the full dive into it.
Did you see the most recent comment? I'm buying Nike.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, the thing is, is Nike going anywhere? No, probably not. And it's been beaten up like crazy. It's probably going to be a buy at some point. We haven't even really moved on the market, by the way. We are pulling back a little bit off of that 52 area I called out, but we really haven't moved. So I'm really enjoying this conversation. But to me, the 3-prong approach is buy things that you own and use that you know are popular. Invest in good companies that have been around, have good balance sheets and stuff. And in that same category, you could say Mag 7, mega cap tech.
Bulletproof.
Own those names. And then in a third, like a little bit more aggressive area, I do try to buy some of your growth type of names, your up and coming industries. That's where I try to get ideas from some of these other guys that are much deeper into it than I am, much more they're deep in the forest, figuring out, they know all the trees in the forest, right? They know all the pieces of everything. I'm from the outside, but I don't want to miss the forest for the first tree. When I think about like Palantir, I did not understand Palantir at all, but I kept hearing people say, buy it, buy it, buy it. And I'm like, well, I don't understand it. And I start listening to other people break it down, explain it. And I caught a nice move. At this point, if you're not in Palantir, you're probably late. But look at that. That's crazy. Look at this immediate. Sometimes these type of names, I feel like you can almost buy this high. I'm not going to do it right now. But luckily, I was in a little bit earlier because of following some of these other really smart people out there. Yeah. But Palantir is one of those names where I'm like, hey, that's something that, I think I should have in my portfolio. It's a little bit more aggressive, and this one's worked out. There's some names that don't work out, right? But that, just buying big cap tech is, you're stuck into one group. So I want to have somewhat of a more aggressive area too, where I do buy names like Palantir. Hood. Have you looked at a Hood chart lately? They just Hood actually released, or T-Rex, Rex Shares released a 2x leveraged Hood today, of all things.
Oh, but look at the top comment right here.
Which one?
From OME. Got assigned 200 shares PLTR at $19.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, wait, you're pissed about that? You got assigned? That's great.
No, you.
That means you have to buy them.
Pissed?
Yeah.
How are you? Unless you got assigned and sold them. No, that would be a great problem to have. I feel like I would love to have 200 shares with Palantir at $19 right now.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But
sorry,
Hood is one of those that it's one of those 2021 IPOs that got crazy valuation and then just went into the doom loop for years, and it's finally regained the IPO price and broke over it. There's several charts that are trying to do this right now, and I'm keeping an eye on some of those. But Robinhood, I think, you build a base that long and you have a company that's growing in popularity. I honestly, I've never been a big fan of Robinhood as far as like trading wise personally, but I can see where other people love it. Right. And I can see where Vlad was on for an interview one day on one of the spaces we had, as well as someone else that works at Robinhood. And I started looking into it. I'm going, they're right. These baby boomers, as they die off and pass down wealth, what is Gen X or even millennials, like what are they using? A lot of them are using, if they're casual, maybe not just day traders or whatever, they're going to use Robinhood. And Robinhood is adding new things, and it's showing growth and getting better as a platform and stuff. So like it's checking a lot of boxes, and you can see that the street thinks the same. That's an insane move that we've been all over in Robinhood. Yeah. There's a lot of names like DraftKings, DKNG. Sports betting is growing in popularity.
It's not crazy how many tickers we just know off the top of our head.
Yeah, and I do spend a lot of time doing this, but it's funny, you can mention what a chart looks like, and I can think about 5 that have similar charts. But DraftKings, this one, got beat up. I was buying in that little cup and handle down there on the weekly chart, and it's been super good. And every time it dips down, I buy more of it, because sports betting is growing like crazy. They're only in like 20 states, and that's expanding more and more. Yep. I mean, to me, I think the sky's the limit. So that's something that I own that I really like.
Yeah. In terms of an allocation, I think that even if you're in your 50s, even if you're in your mid 40s, I mean, this is absolutely not financial advice. Without question, this is my opinion. But I believe that you should have zero exposure to fixed income. I think that you should have your entire portfolio in equities, whether that's growth, whether that's more conservative, whether it's like cyclical stuff. I don't think that you will ever actually make a real rate of return, meaning that outpaces inflation, a real rate of return on anything fixed income related. If you are looking for more dividend income, then you can go for dividend stocks, or I mean, like obviously these are, DraftKings is not one of them, but some of the ones that we have covered do have a decent dividend. But
if you're looking for some passive income, yeah, you can get some of those dividend stocks. But the bonds, your inflation comment, I think is really important here. Inflation at 3%, basically.
A 3 is the most conservative possible. It's not 3%.
And if you're buying, well, yeah, right. So if it's supposed to be 3% as a target, right?
Yeah.
And the bonds are giving you 4 or 5%, you're not even getting close to what just the broad market's going to give you on average. You're not even close. Less than half.
It's
and honestly, inflation we know went way higher. And if you were worried about inflation or not, I guess if you were just being conservative with bonds and your fixed rate return of 4%, 5% or something, inflation completely blew you out of the water the last 5 years, right? It just completely just killed you.
Yeah. And one of the things that people really don't, which is super important, because at the end of the day, the reason that you want to accumulate wealth is not for the number in your bank account, it is for your purchasing power. So if you go to Thailand and you have $100, it's worth like whatever. I don't even know what the number is, but some like ridiculous amount.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, the dollar's super strong there.
Yeah. But you don't care about the actual physical number. You care about what your money can buy you. And what's important about inflation is that it robs you of your ability to buy things with the same amount of money. So if you have, let's just say $1 million, you know for a fact that in the next 10 years, that $1 million is going to buy you less stuff than it can now. Less experiences, less travel, less medical care, less a smaller house, like all of that. So making sure that your portfolio is hedged against inflation, meaning typically more tech, more growth heavy, will help you preserve your purchasing power. Now, when inflation starts to rise, and all that means is your cost of living goes up. The average, I'm not going to get into the details. It just means that your cost of living rises. Things get more expensive. Your groceries, your rent, your insurance, your gas, everything else rises. Now, people, and the reason that the equity markets rise when inflation rises is because people don't want to hold cash anymore. They don't want to hold the US dollar because the value of it is actually going down. So they flee to equities. Now, a lot of the returns over the last 20 years in the S&P 500 are actually driven by inflation. So if you look at an inflation adjusted SPY chart or an SPX or S&P 500 chart, it's actually not that great of the returns, but because there's been so much money printed that that's a great point.
I was going to ask you about crypto next too, because I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Everyone is fleeing to the equities. Everyone is fleeing to real estate. Everyone is fleeing to something that is not dollar denominated or not dollar denominated, not in dollars, because they are losing purchasing power every single year. Now,
and it seems like it's getting exponential, like the way money's getting printed. It's just exponentially getting worse and worse every year.
Yeah, and the reason it has to is because every time they print money, the following time when they have to print more money and they reach the debt ceiling, your liabilities get exponentially bigger every time, because one time you have to print 1 billion. Then next time you still spend and you still have to pay back. You have to pay all the interest on the 1 billion. Then you have to print again. Now you have to print 2 billion, then 4 billion, then 8, and whatever else. And it doesn't really end. There's not really a proper solution for it other than increase your revenue and actually cut your expenses. Now, Elon with the Doge is apparent. I mean, I don't know what the real impact he can have. Being realistic, I don't know what he can do in 18 months because they do have an expiration date on that. But they have to cut the expenses. There's really no way around it. Like, what the government is doing is they can't afford their mortgage payment, so they're paying their mortgage with their credit card, and now they can't afford their credit card payment either. That's literally exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Imagine paying your mortgage with your credit card, and now you have to pay interest on both. But like, you're like, oh, don't worry, next year I'll be making more money so I could pay all this back. That's like kind of the logic behind that, which, I mean, obviously is broken.
Well, they take out that second mortgage, like, okay, now I got some equity in here. I got to pull that out just to pay down debt on everything that I used to build this equity. Like, you've spun your wheels in the mud. Yeah.
And I'm curious, what do you think about crypto? About Bitcoin specifically, not crypto, not like any of the meme coins or whatever.
So Bitcoin, I think at this point, it's so generally accepted. It's made it mainstream, right?
Yeah.
I think you have to have exposure to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think it is a good place to have exposure. The concern I have, I mean, one, it's made a crazy run, right? The concern I have is there's this crux of, okay, decentralized, right? But now you have all the institutions buying it and holding massive amounts of it and going to eventually probably control a lot of the supply. So is that not centralizing the decentralized narrative? Like, is that narrative not getting beat up a little bit, which I think is tough? But at the same time, Bitcoin, you look at Bitcoin or just crypto in general versus what the dollar's doing, they're going in opposite directions. And if I can store, and I know a lot of people that actually store all their money essentially in Bitcoin, and they spend as much as they can. They pay their bills or whatever they can with Bitcoin, whatever the price is. They're okay with the volatility, which is wild. And then beyond that, I think you can look at maybe Ethereum and then Solana as a couple of the other ones. But then once you get beyond that, I think it's a lot riskier. And so it all depends on what your risk tolerance is beyond that. Now, meme coins and that's a whole, I don't even touch that. If you want to try to trade that, you're playing some lottos, whatever. I get it. But to me, it's like, I just don't think there's a really good, sustainable model there. And every one of these crypto things that's coming out, there are some that interest me that have actual use cases. But most of them, they tell you there's a use case behind it, and there's not a use case behind it. It's just a selling point. So to me, it's like I focus on the big ones. And I do think, you got to have, it's the same reason we've seen gold continue to go up because of inflation. You look at gold was like in a 20-year consolidation or something really crazy.
Let me just run to the bathroom quick. I'll be right back in 1 second.
Yeah. I'm going to throw my screen back up here. We'll take a look at the market in the meantime. We finally have come back down a little bit. There's that 52 level I was showing you guys earlier. We came back down right back to the gap fill. If this fails, we look for this. There's the first time we've touched the 21 though all morning. I would expect this to get probably bought back up to the 20s here. But we'll see. NVIDIA has come down pretty hard here. Microsoft just made a new low of day. I haven't really heard any news come out this entire time. And this looks like a rollover. It's very possible. How far have we come down? About 60 points, 68 points. It's not bad. We are losing that NFP, but the first time you touch this 21, I don't know. I feel like you're going to bounce here. I was just taking a look at where the market's at. We did pull back a little bit. NVIDIA pulled back. Microsoft's making a new low day. Just trying to look around and see what else is happening. Yeah, Nvidia's coming down pretty decently hard here. Apple, there's a lot of profit taking, but everything else is still consolidating near the highs. Tesla, Amazon, Google. Google just made a new high 5 minutes ago. We're right at that.
You were saying something about centralization around
I'll throw
Bitcoin.
What you were looking at back up here.
So you're saying centralization around Bitcoin. Now,
yeah. So like obviously at the beginning that's inherently bullish, right? Because you just have tons of monies. You have even like these big institutions, IRAs and ETFs. You've got a lot more people with access to it. You've even seen some pension funds buying into it. Like obviously that's bullish off the bat. But at what point does the entire everyone was trying to sell us Bitcoin as decentralized, store of value, decentralized currency that doesn't have inflation risk and stuff, and it's not controlled by banks or the Fed. But if BlackRock and MSTR and whoever else ends up owning 10 to 20% of the total supply, does that not basically centralize the decentralized in a way?
So the way that I don't think that when you say centralized versus decentralized, I don't think it's about the ownership. I think it's about that if I wanted to send money, if I wanted to send $1 million to Iraq right now, I could do it. No matter if Larry Fink owns 20 million and I own one, if I own one Bitcoin, I could send one Bitcoin to anyone in the world, no matter what, instantly. I don't need to go to a bank. I don't need to show my ID. I don't need to talk to anyone. I could send it to an island off of the coast of Japan, or I could send it to you right now. International borders doesn't matter.
But just because you use the term like Iraq, which is obviously, let's say it's Iran, let's say it's North Korea.
That's why I use that, because you cannot send a wire.
But where does federal regulation come into play at some point to prevent that as well, for money laundering purposes, for terrorism, anti-terrorism? I mean, at what point does the government basically have to create some type of overwatch on that and basically shut down that? I mean, if you do it, you go to jail, or they freeze your assets. So I still think that there's got to be some type of government regulations coming more and more. I still like it. I still think it's overall bullish. I just have those concerns about like this trajectory that it's on right now.
So I think the whole point of it is that, if you want, China tried to shut it down. They couldn't shut it down because you have to. So then you would have to assume that the wallet that was created in whatever Iraq is KYC'd to where the agency that's covering it in the US would know that the wallet that's KYC, or that the wallet that you're sending money to, is in that country, or is whatever, like a terrorist organization, whatever else. Then that would be like one of the ways. But I mean, they would just spin up a new wallet. Like I don't see how they could manage it. Now, if you're going to like Chase Bank, like it's obviously a very different story. But I don't see how they do it, and I don't see a way where they can control it, because China tried and they weren't able to. Now, if they make it illegal, and then obviously,
good point.
Like obviously, money laundering is illegal. Which
with the U.S., so like every bank account you have to have your social. You have to have all of this stuff connected to your bank account, and then they monitor every transaction. And the thing with Bitcoin is every single transaction's in a ledger, right? So I feel like, I mean, it may take some higher level AI or quantum computing at some point, but I think all of that, it's going to be, I mean, it's essentially all traceable in a certain manner or another. But I do see the counterpoints too of that. It's a very interesting topic to me.
It's now people say crypto is anonymous. That is absolute nonsense. It is not it is anonymous to the person who doesn't know the account holder. And just so everyone knows, for those of you who might not be as familiar with crypto, the way that it works is Imagine that every bank account in the entire world just had an ID instead of your name, and you can see every single one and every single transaction that each one does.
Where every piece of money goes.
Where every piece of money goes, but with no name. It's just a random ID number. So like every bank account has a random ID, and you can go on literally blockchain.com and you can see all of the transactions. You can look up any wallet in the world, but you don't know who it belongs to. You don't know who each one belongs to. So that's one of the things where the moment that you find that you know this wallet belongs to this person, now you know exactly all of how much money they have, who they're or what wallets they're transacting with, everything that they're doing. Now you know you've paired the identity of the person to their wallet. Like, so for example, when Justin Bieber was buying NFTs and he posted, "This is the NFT that I own," you can go to the wallet that owns it. You can see exactly how much money it has because anyone can go and see it. So now you know Justin Bieber has this much money in Ethereum and he bought this NFT with that money. So that's the part where it's anonymous until you kind of like dox yourself, or intentionally or unintentionally or by the law or however it works. That's the way that that's where it's not anonymous.
You see this comment here is interesting too, because if you do make a transaction at some point, somebody basically knows your wallet number, and at that point they can put 2 and 2 together, and then they can look at your entire history of every transaction that you've made because it's all in a public ledger, right?
Yeah. And
so, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic because we've never had anything like this, and that's why predicting the future is really tough. And I think there's a lot of really interesting angles to consider. I do think it's inherently bullish and will continue to go higher. Based on the design and stuff. But I do think there's going to be periods where there's concern about it. There's some FUD. There's going to be sideways. I mean, look at the sideways consolidation we had back, what was it, from March until September? I mean, we sat in that range and consolidated for 6 months. People kept buying the dip and people kept getting liquidated over and over. Because they would put the leverage on, like, this is going to be the breakout time. And it wasn't. And then this one's going to be the breakout time. And people were doing that for 5 or 6 months. And then when it finally went, it was massive, obviously a massive reward.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people do trade Bitcoin with leverage, but please don't do that. I mean, please don't do that. It already moves enough. I mean, even I don't know how the futures move. If you want to trade, like, I've never even experimented or like researched how Bitcoin futures work, but please don't trade BTC with leverage. I mean, if you want some crazy play, trade MSTR options, trade the equity. Don't trade with crazy
buy 2x leverage MSTR, MSTU, buy MSTU.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. Like, I mean, that's one thing I don't recommend. But
have you ever looked at MSTU, by the way?
No. What is this 2x leverage? Oh my god. Oh my.
Look at the. So Rex shares, for whatever reason, their timing is impeccable.
Just MSTU like the worst timing to start?
No. When they launch these products, it's like right before they go on a crazy run. This was in September. Yeah, because we launched it on Spaces. We were like, hey, here's the first day you can buy it. And it just went on an absolute ripper. I think they did a Bitcoin one recently. BITZ or BIT something. Then there's also, like, if you just type in T-Rex or Rex shares, you can see like a whole list of them.
What is it called? What should I type in?
Rex.
T-Rex?
Rex shares or T-Rex.
I don't know. It's not.
Try typing in T-Rex. Scroll down. I'll have to.
Yeah, it's fine. These are crazy play. Like, another important piece. I mean, we might have spoken about this actually. Is that if you're
you got to
trading this?
Down. Yeah, never mind.
Oh, is it way down?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry, there's a bunch of them though, because like they came out with a Palantir one and Palantir went on the run. They came out like the Hood one just launched. So is Hood gonna go on the run? It's they have an NFL U, I think, is a Netflix 2x leverage. You know, if you're looking for leverage, but something that can't go to zero or liquidate you, that's where I would look.
But that's all what that can't go to. Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually.
Because it's better than options, in my opinion, especially right now during earnings. Like, think about buying 2x leveraged any of these Mag 7 names that have come out instead of the options that have pretty much all crushed. Almost every single one of our, I think every Mag 7 this week did not make the implied move.
Really?
So every one of those options, I think, crushed. Because most of them were pricing in an implied move of like 9% each way, and pretty much everything is crushed so far.
Wow.
Which is
even Apple. I mean, I'm not sure what the implied move on Apple was, but not nearly as much.
Yeah, and so it's essentially crushed because the implied volatility was higher. If you don't get outside of that implied move, then you got smoked.
So what he's talking about is when IV is very high, and implied volatility is very high, the premiums that you actually pay to get into the trade are elevated. And implied volatility rises in times of uncertainty. So when there's earnings coming up, implied volatility will slowly start to rise up until the day of earnings. And then the uncertainty that drives the increase in the IV is the actual earnings. So the moment that the earnings actually come out, there's no more uncertainty, and then the IV plummets. And when the IV plummets, it's very directly correlated to the actual premiums that the actual premiums on the options. So if you paid when the IV was very high, like if you bought something when the IV was very high, even if you're directionally correct, the decrease in implied volatility will typically either put you at break even or red. So you got to be very careful with implied volatility, especially around earnings and times of uncertainty around like elections and earnings and whatever other.
Well, because that IV crush where they have to price in the options market, a certain move. And if the stock doesn't move outside of what's priced in, even if it goes in your direction, because that IV was so high, we now have the data. So now you're going to get an IV crush. And if you're not outside of that implied move, you're completely screwed. That's why I actually don't mind looking at, and plus options you can only trade during market hours. These 2x leverage, you can trade in after hours. You can buy a dip. You can sell a pop. You can wake up the next morning and get out of it before the open. That's the other reason why I'm actually a fan of using those in certain cases. Now, don't play options on 2x leverage ETFs, please. Do not do that.
That actually doesn't really work.
No, it's terrible.
It's horrible.
Absolutely terrible. And
what's the TSLL? People play options on this all the time. It's the most horrendous. It doesn't.
It's terrible. They're not liquid enough. You're on a leverage ticker that's daily rebalancing. It's not set up to have options on it. Options are set up to be able to hedge it, not to really play it. Now, this is a really cool example that you just happen to pull up here. Do you have volume on your chart? Just simple volume. Look at the volume that comes in when this earnings report was released.
When was it released? Right over here?
Yes. Wednesday at the close. Zoom in on that. You can even go down to like 5 minute or less. Right there. Look at that volume stick that came in right when it took off.
Yep. Right over
People were not buying. There was more volume coming into this than there was to Tesla. We noticed this during the earnings call, or during our we were doing a live space on it. There was more, and that's not like retail volume. That was basically trading institutions, hedge funds that actually actively trade. There was more volume coming into TSLT than there was into actual Tesla. So instead of buying the dip on Tesla at 365, 370, they were buying 2x leverage on that dip.
Yeah.
Somebody, you could say somebody knew something. They started hearing Elon talk, whatever it was. But that was a very interesting dynamic we noticed. Was that volume? Just if you compare the relative volume of what you normally get on a 2x leverage versus what you normally get on the underlying, it was way higher when you had. If you looked at TSLT versus Tesla, there was a disproportionate amount of buyers coming into 2x long than there was the actual underlying, which is absolutely insane. And look how terrible that looked. When the numbers came out, they missed and everything. They started going through the numbers. And then all of a sudden you saw that turning point. It was like 15 minutes after the release. And it just absolutely went insane.
Yeah.
And look, if you bought that dip with 2x leverage, and look, you could have sold the next morning. Options would have not been up at all because it's inside the implied move. If you took calls or puts, you would have been down probably 70% even at the open, even with the price higher than the close.
Oh, well, 100%. Like one thing, I mean, if you can't, so the logic would be, well, then how do I take the opposing side of that trade? And that's, you'd be selling the options. But also, if you're wrong there, you are so wrong. It like the risk to reward when you sell options is typically very bad. So the reason that the risk to reward is very bad is because the win rate is typically very high. Typically, obviously, if you're doing anything with earnings, it's a lot more difficult. There's a lot more factors, everything else. But what would make sense is to sell calls up here, sell puts down here when and this would be not on the 2x leverage. This would be on the regular equity, but you can sell the options outside of the implied move, and you can capture the premium over here when it's still very high. You can sell it expecting price or there to be like kind of a dud earnings day. Actually, that should be over here, a dud earnings day. And then these will expire worthless because the IV crush during the morning.
And all that premium you sold, you collect and you get to hold on to.
Yeah.
There was an interesting stat I saw that was if you take every single company across the market and you looked at options buyers versus option sellers, it's actually like 50-50. So in general, which I know it's a crazy stat, in general, like obviously there's some names that beat more often than others, whatever, but just in general, it's the market prices in the options pretty well across a long-term basis. So like if you're playing options for, earnings lottos, it's already stacked against you because you've got the best minds in the world that are pricing these things in on purpose, and they have a good track record, obviously. And sometimes, you hit one, like I know I hit an AMD one a couple years ago that went absolutely crazy, and NVIDIA went absolutely crazy. And some of those have been great. But for every one of those, there's 20 that are priced perfectly. And it's like, how many Powerball tickets are you buying here? Like at what point do you just create a system? Another point that I'll bring up on this, and we are coming to the top of the hour here. Another point I'll bring up on this real fast, there is some nice systems around this that actually are proven to work. So like one of them, Andre, have you ever looked at like calendars or like doing spreads? So like basically you sell a short term. Yeah. So like I've learned this from like Paper Gains, some guys that are way deeper in the options world than I am and have full systems built around this where you essentially, you sell short term. So like for these earnings this week, you would sell a call for Friday and you would buy a call for next month. Yeah. So you're selling short-term volatility, but you're buying long-term volatility. And so you're planning on the crush to happen on the short-term contract, but you're capturing the move with the long-term contract. But you've set your risk there because you can only lose so much. If that one that you sold, if it does go in the money, you saw that long-term one to protect you. There's so many strategies and things out there, but that's probably my favorite one. If you are going to get anywhere near earnings trades, look into some system like that will define your risk on each side. And then even further, that system goes a lot further. I'm not going to go into every detail. If you're interested, send me a DM or I'll get you in the right direction. But essentially you have set risk and reward, plus you're also looking at what the implied move is, what the historical move is. You're putting a lot of data into it, and it's a full system. It's not just a, well, I think Nvidia is going to go up and beat earnings, so I'm going to take a call at this price. Okay, well, hopefully you got outside of the implied move for one, and two, there's three things that can happen. The price can go up, the price can go down, or the price can go sideways. Two of those things are bad for your options.
Yeah.
Two of the three possibilities are bad for you.
Yeah. And options are they seem very simple. When you see the stuff on Reddit, you see a lot on Reddit specifically, you see a lot on Twitter. Oh, I made 500%, whatever. There's a lot that goes into actually understanding how the options prices move. So I would actually recommend starting with a smaller account. If you are going to get into options, I would recommend getting into a smaller account. Like, even if you want to start with like $500 or $1,000, and you use a cash account. Very importantly, use a cash account so you can it also helps with your discipline, but understanding just to get a feel for how they move, because I know that what we're saying might literally sound like another language right now, but there are a lot of other factors that go into the price. Not only, like, if you're trading Tesla options, like the actual Tesla stock going up doesn't always mean that price on your options are going to go up. So just be careful and just be mindful of that if you are going to start to learn options, because, like, personally, I think they're a fantastic tool, especially once you start to understand how to sell them properly. But yeah, I think options are great. It just requires a little bit of time to figure out how they work. But yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I have a space that I've got to jump into right now. Andre, loved having you on here. I know honestly, the market really didn't move that much. It did pull back a little bit. Honestly, I was not excited to trade it. I got that first move I was looking for happened. So that played out. I caught a nice little bit of green on the short scalp. Stayed out of trouble on a Friday. It's been a great month. Last day of the month. It will be interesting to see what happens maybe late in the day today. But
yeah.
Anyways, Andre, I appreciate you.
All right.
Make sure you check out Edgeful, everyone. Just go check it out. Give it a shot. Yeah. Is the free trial gone?
Yeah, no, not yet, but it's going.
Not yet. Yeah. I keep getting scared to tell people there's a free trial, but for now, jump in there and at least try it out. The whole new site's out. You saw the new layout. Looks great. Great job, Andre. Appreciate it. And hey, we even had a nice suggestion that I'm going to follow up on a little bit.
Good.
The previous week's range and previous day's range by performance, basically after that. That's going to be interesting. But anyways, appreciate everyone that tuned in this morning. We had over 6,400 people total check in on the stream this morning. So beautiful stream. And we turned into a fantastic conversation. Every time me and you get together, we have a good conversation about something trading related. So appreciate everyone that joined in this morning, and we will see you guys next week. I'm not sure which days it'll be, but for sure Friday, maybe Monday, maybe Wednesday. We'll figure it out. I'll let you guys know. Take it easy. Andre, take care. Have a great rest of your day. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
All right.